Arc Raiders is an extraction shooter that wants you to pay attention. It wants you to scan the horizon and really listen to its soundscape, and that makes it one of the most exciting multiplayer games heading to PS5 in 2025. Now, I have had my eyes on Arc Raiders since its announcement back in 2021. However, once developer Embark Studios released the finals, which I think is the best shooter on PS5, my anticipation grew. Well, I've finally managed to rack up over 7 hours with the game on PC, familiarising myself with its gameplay loop, its progression systems, and the overall feel of its experience. And while I walked away feeling like I barely scratched the surface, I also loved every single second that I spent with it. Arc Raiders is a big old extraction shooter with multiple huge maps, vendors dishing out quests, multiple Helldivers 2-esque battle passes, a grindy skill tree, and a whole crafting system that needs upgrading. I'll get into all of that, but let's start with Arc's base premise. Arc Raiders is set in a post-apocalypse where humans have been forced underground by the Arc machines. Raiders, which is what you play as, head up to the surface of the Rust Belt to scavenge supplies for the underground city of Speranza. Get to the surface, fill your bag with loot, and get out, all whilst confronting or avoiding AI Arc machines and real players. If you're familiar with the extraction genre, you'll have heard it all before. It's a formula we've seen in Hunt Showdown, Escape from Tarkov, and even Helldivers 2 to some degree. However, Arc Raiders stands apart from the crowd by delivering a top-tier audio and visual experience. Rocking a cassette futurism aesthetic, Embark has cooked up a truly great looking shooter with overexposed lighting, brutalist architecture, and cobbled together sci-fi cosmetics and weapons that are very reminiscent of Star Wars. There's a certain realism to it all though that just completely sold me on its setting, with every hallway, alley or rooftop feeling alive in some kind of intangible way. There's an authentic feel to its maps, and I quite often thought back to my first time exploring the Wall and the Cosmodrome in Destiny. It's huge, it's aged, and you can feel that history through its walls. Now, a lot of that is down to the sound design too, which is impeccable. It actually sounds bad in some kind of imperfect yet deliberate way, with echoing and distortion. It avoids that perfect Hollywood action soundscape that you would find in Call of Duty, tying tremendously into the aesthetic and easily making it one of the most immersive extraction shooters that I've played. Every interaction, every movement, every surface and enemy has a distinct sound to it. I spent a lot of time just listening to make myself aware of nearby dangers, whether those were the ominous hums of a nearby Arc drone or the shuffling footsteps of another team of raiders. It brings the stealthier aspects of the genre to its forefront, where some of my favourite moments with the game involved my team quietly sneaking around, navigating our way towards unsuspecting rivals based on their sound alone. It's very Hunt Showdown in that respect. It's a type of game that puts everything you need to know about it into its world rather than the HUD or menus. Now, I'm sure that if I spent enough time with this game, I would actually be able to distinguish which Arc machine is nearby based on its various bleeps and bloops. Gunfire, flares from downed enemies, extraction being broadcast via speakers and flashing lights. Not everything is so clearly signposted, but it's there if you know what to pay attention to. And that for me is the marking of a really well designed game. It's putting the onus on the player to learn the ways of its world. Even after just a few hours, my team was being much more conscious of the sound we were making and considering our paths a lot more tactically. Same goes for the content within its map, like locked doors or arc protected loot, which is slowly revealed, I suppose, as you become more familiar with its maps. It's leaning on the more hardcore experience in that way, where resources are limited and you can't just shoot your way through every situation. I had games where being spotted by a single Arc machine spiraled into one disaster after the other, surviving by the skin of my teeth and breathing a sigh of relief when I found even 10 measly SMG bullets or a single shield recharger. The third-person gameplay felt responsive and snappy, albeit entirely dictated by your stamina meter and weight capacity in those early hours. It can feel restrictive in some ways because of that, but eventually you do learn how to sort of work around it, like with the slide, which meant your stamina could grow while still moving, and that is a good slide, by the way. Now, every weapon has a distinct feel, especially through the DualSense controller, which I used for the duration of my preview sessions. The game is quite well optimised for gamepads, although it's obvious that loot management is far better suited to mouse and keyboard. Now, with limited supplies, there is a keen emphasis on taking cover and making sure your shots count. Skirmishes could often feel like a dance as you dive for more cover and try to get the advantage. You also kind of need to know which weapons will actually do damage to certain arc machines, because there were more heavily armoured arcs that wouldn't have a scratch on them if you shot them with an SMG, so it's kind of knowing when to attack and when to retreat. And if it's not obvious by now, it's also really easy to fail. Whether it's arc machines or other players, I lost more games than ones where I successfully extracted. It's the carrot and stick of the extraction genre, and I'm sure that if you're interested in Arc Raiders already, you'll know whether that brutal gameplay loop is for you or not. Extracting in Arc Raiders is obviously quite important. Successfully extracting not only fills your vault with the loot for future runs, but it also garners XP. Leveling up with XP gives you skill points to put into the mobility, conditioning, and survival skill trees, which upgrade stamina, mounting speed, loot reveal speeds, and so on. Now, currency can be used to purchase gear from various vendors. You can also sell your loot to these vendors to make up the currency and complete quests to gain more XP. However, resources are incredibly expensive amongst the vendors, and that's where crafting comes in. Hoarding back various supplies is paramount to the crafting system in the game. Starting out with a basic crafting bench, you need supplies to create specific crafting benches and then upgrade them. This will allow you to craft higher tier items such as ammo, healing supplies, and weapon attachments. So much of this is dependent on you actually being able to successfully extract, which, like I said, isn't always possible. However, Arc Raiders does include a few features to stop players hitting a brick wall. For starters, you're still going to earn some form of XP on failed extractions, just far less than you would if you made it out. When back in Speranza, you'll receive a regular collection of basic supplies from your crafting bench rooster. No idea why there's a rooster, but it gives you supplies, so you should still be able to craft some things. And then if you're just completely dry up on currency, nothing in your vault, you have no weapons, you can also head out on a run with a freebie loadout, which is randomized with various low tier weapons and gear in the game. Surviving with one of these things can be tough though, and that's when stealth comes back into play. There are also these things called safe pockets, which mean even if you die, you'll still extract with the items that you put in them. Now, having praised all of this, something I was really disappointed with in Arc Raiders is the cosmetic customization. This may be purely down to my hundreds of hours in the finals, but that game has some of the best cosmetic customization in the multiplayer space. Every skin that you unlock via the battle pass or the basic leveling system or events in the finals is then divided up by its top, trousers, hat, glasses, gloves, and shoes, and then you can mix and match those elements to create your own unique style. Here in Arc Raiders, the battle passes, which can be purchased via currency that you earn in the game, feature full outfits. Each has something to tweak, like whether you wear the headpiece or not, but the only other cosmetic you can mix it with are the backpacks. Now, don't get me wrong, the cosmetics are really well designed, there's some really cool stuff in here, but it does feel like a step back compared to Embark's previous release. Arc Raiders is a game that I cannot wait to play more of. I'd love to spend more time with its progression systems to see if they're really worth investing in, but it's nice to know that there is a reason to grind outside of loot alone. Still, what really impressed me is the game's out in the field experience. This is a cinematic and immersive game. Gunfights are frantic and tactical, stealth is engrossing, and the audio and visual experience is best in class. There's an emergent sense to its games that made each one its own story, which is at the core of a great multiplayer experience. I just need to know how it will run on PS5, but I think Embark is onto another winner here. So will you be checking out Arc Raiders with the second tech test, which is coming to PS5? Let me know down in the comments below, and while you're there, remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more PlayStation video content. Anyway, until next time, thank you as always for watching. I've been Aaron, and this has been Push Square.